Assetto Corsa Evo Early Access is out, and it's kind of a mixed bag. We've talked about it. First Seatback is actually pretty great. The handling is pretty good, and the performance not so good. However, there are a few things that it's not really touched upon because most of the people are using direct drives to test this specific title. So today we're going to have a look at other controller types, just like, this type of controller. First of all, we're going to start with the gamepad. I've tried to use the controller and mouse, but apparently the mouse is not possible to use at the moment. As for the controller is fairly straightforward. It's just basically as any other game for the Gran Turismo. In this case, with the Xbox, you just use the left and right to control the menus, and you use the thumbsticks to drive, just like any other racing game. As for the controller, there's a couple of things to talk about. The controller support is here, and it's not that bad, though there are a few things that it must be mentioned, and because it's an early access. For example, the control with the thumbstick, it generates this because basically there's no smoothing. The acceleration is very, very high, and there's really no smoothing on the controls. So that means you really need to be super careful. It's not like Gran Turismo where you can push it, left to right. It will have some sort of acceleration, some sort of smoothing, and then you can control the car very, very easily. In this case, for this Assetto Corsa Evo game, because we need to do a little bit of this smoothing thing, well, it's not optimal, but the controls are way better, for example, than we had at least in my opinion, in Assetto Corsa and even Assetto Corsa Competizione. It's fairly easy to understand what you need to do, but I really hope they add that information, they add that settings as well. And the other thing we need to talk about is about the camera. I have seen another user, another content creator with the camera moving left and right. I've been trying to check out with the movement of the camera and all of that to see if we can get a camera that is a little more moving. In this case, it was the content creator Dustin Eden. And in this camera, the camera, or in this game, the camera was moving left and right, so I'm not sure what the hell is happening here. Unfortunately, it's not doing it very well here. It's just fixed at the background. But in terms of usability, as it is for the gamepad, if you get around the speed sensitivity, and it shouldn't be too difficult, the default settings are actually pretty okay. You use the A and B to go through the gears. Of course, you can use, if you want, you can use some sort of automatic transmission. You have also access to handbrake. You can stall the car, but you can also remove that if you don't want the car to stall. And the handling of the car seems fairly predictable. It's once you get the sensitivity or the smoothing here in another early access, hopefully we get that. I think this will be very similar in terms of movement with the thumbsticks and the controllers you can get, or at least with the small tray brake you can get on the gamepad. I would say that would be very comparable to Forza or Gran Turismo in terms of handling, which is basically a good thing. So it opens up more possibilities to users that don't have wheels, or they can't have wheels or don't want to have wheels because they are a little bit cumbersome sometimes. So for gamepads, it's about a 7 out of 10, but this has very big possibility to be more than that. So how about with something more entry-level, more common? Logitech G923 in this case, basically probably is the same for the G29, and I'm using this G923 with Max Pappas Innovations Simlink. How is it? Well, in this case, the gamepad was, had very good haptics, had issues with acceleration. This is essentially on the other side. It's essentially one-to-one in terms of how the wheel moves, which is good, but there's only really a centering force and some rumbles here and there. It is not as deep or interesting as you used to have in Assetto Corsa or Assetto Corsa Competizione, or even better yet, Gran Turismo, where the G923 actually shines as an entry-level wheel. This has a lot missing. You have good rumbles, you have good vibrations. The true force doesn't seem to be activated at all, at least not in a way that you'd feel it in Gran Turismo and Assetto Corsa Competizione with this wheel. You just have essentially just a centering force and not much more. It is drivable, but in my opinion, that Assetto Corsa Evo, because it's going to be catered to a much wider audience from the get-go. The 4-seat back in these wheels, and also the T3 and RS, which were a problem in Assetto Corsa Competizione Early Access #1, should have better defined 4-seat back, and you know, in that case, it's a bit disappointing. It's going to be a lion's share of users. They want to go to the free roam, and most free roam users, like No Hesse or LA Canyons or something like that, will always have entry-level wheels. And I think entry-level wheels should have better 4-seat back from the get-go, though if it's anything going like Assetto Corsa Competizione, where in Early Access 1 the 4-seat back was actually destroyed, this is a bit better than that. Still, you know, Kunos needs to do a little bit better for Early Access 2. The last point will be the direct drives. In this case, I'm using a Club Sport DD, and these are the settings that I'm using for the Club Sport DD. Inside of the game, that will be the steering lock 1080. In reality, I use 900. It makes absolutely no difference in this game. 4-seat back gain, you know, 41% seems to be good. I'm running the wheel at 12 Newton meters. It's a 15 Newton meter wheel. And we have very good dynamic range on the 4-seat back. The dynamic dampening, minimum dampening, damper gain, I put it at 0. In reality, for this game, as opposite to Assetto Corsa Competizione, where basically you need to put every dampening down, with this one, with Evo, you can actually use a little bit of dampening. I wouldn't recommend a lot, but I would recommend you a bit of dampening. And in steering filter, I'm going to leave at 0%. True force gain, this is for Logitech wheels, such as the G923 as we tested earlier. I didn't see any difference there, so this wheel doesn't have true force, therefore we're not going to do it. Speed sensitivity doesn't seem to do anything in this game, so is steering assist weight and vibrations. Steering assist weight kind of turns off the steering wheel, and that's basically it. As for the wheelbase, this is exactly the same type of setup I'm using in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Sensitivity 900, 4-seat back 75% or 11 Newton meters, 12 Newton meters. No full force because it doesn't work. Natural dampener, natural friction, natural inertia. 0 doesn't seem to do anything. 100% force feedback intensity and interpolation filter. In reality, this game is actually pretty good already with the interpolation. That means there's really there's not a lot of signal that is very much out there. The signal seems to be already correctly filtered from the get-go. At least that's what I find. You might want to increase a little bit of the interpolation, but I didn't see anything that was super sharp that required to make the peaks of the force feedback a little smoother. In reality, this steering wheel or this wheelbase works very well with even light wheels for Assetto Corsa Evo. So these are my settings. Of course, if you want to raise something, the only thing I would recommend is that you would raise a little bit of dampening, especially naturally dampening on the game, or even here, and that would be more enough. That will be more for those of you who want a little bit of drifting. It has that fast feeling that Assetto Corsa has from the get-go, and having a little bit of dampening actually helps out to make it feel a little more natural to drift. As for the force feedback, I touched a little bit on it on my early access reaction video, and I generally find it very good. In between Assetto Corsa Competizione and Assetto Corsa, it has some of that Assetto Corsa feel of connection, but I think this one is even better in this game. Connection with the tarmac, and also some of the simulation of the steering rack as ACC has, without being that obnoxious with the dampening, even though there's a bit of dampening over here, and you know, depending on what it is, it might be good or it might be bad. You feel the suspension working, you feel basically the tires on edge of grip, you understand if the car is moving in a way that you don't want to, oversteer, understeer, even though I think the understeer effect could be much better. It feels like it doesn't have an understeer effect that is too prevalent. For example, when you drive a car, front-wheel driven car especially, at speed, and you go beyond the grip of the front tires, you do feel in a car much more of the understeer effect through the steering wheel than we do in Assetto Corsa. So there's still a lot of dampening going around, Not sure how much of it can be dialed down. For the direct drive feels in Assetto Corsa Competizione Evo for this specific wheelbase, the Club Sport TD, I would suppose it would be very similar-ish in other direct drives. You know, it's plenty fast to understand what's going on. Everything feels connected. And honestly, it kind of feels like they have designed the game around direct drives. If that's good or not, well, that really depends. But I still think, like I've said before, that they need to take special attention to Logitech wheel users and Trustmaster wheel users, because that's still going to be the lion's share of drivers in this sim, especially as it opens up to everybody that wants free roam. And they want also to use this on the consoles, if this comes to consoles, but I suppose it will come. So what we have here in terms of controls is that Kunos is trying to do an effort of having everything working more or less correctly from the get-go. In my opinion, it's better than what they did in Assetto Corsa Competizione. In Assetto Corsa, I didn't have any issues, but then again, I didn't try it with many different wheels because I didn't have many different wheels at the time, and nor I did try with the gamepad. So the gamepad is works okay. Actually, I'm actually very happy with the gamepad support. The menus work fine, though it still needs some sort of smoothing or sensitivity or acceleration option to turn it on one way or the other, because, you know, if you go with the thumbstick all the way to the left, generally you want it to work like Gran Turismo, and it's basically turning the wheel to the max very, very fast or instantaneously. That doesn't work as well. The triggers work fine. Generally, the camera feels okay-ish, not in the way that I've tried it. Now, I would like to know what is your opinion in the comments about the support that Assetto Corsa Evo has for your wheels or controllers, and tell everybody about your setups and your configurations that might help people out that are trying to get into Assetto Corsa Evo.